It's time for another podcast by George. Straight talk, straight from the heartland, that'll have you saying, "By George, I think he's got it." Now, here's George.
Hello, hi, how are you? Welcome on in to another podcast by George. That particular intro has Bob Pace on guitar. And, I can't say enough about Bob. He's the cuz, as we call him, and his music is great. I'd like to introduce him to our guests that we're going to have on here someday, because I think they would really get along and appreciate each other's music. Our guest today, returning to the Podcast by George Liveline. Folks, I'm just delighted about it. It's Serge, however you want to say it, Tiagniryadno, and I don't have a pronunciation on his last name even. This guy can speak like, I don't know, maybe 3 languages, and I'm lucky if I can get one out. But he's coming back on the podcast. He's still in his apartment in Ukraine, in Kyiv, and there's some news coming out of there that Kyiv is getting blasted. Parts of it are being hit by rocket attacks. And it makes me think about, matter of fact, I think about him all the time. I mean, every day I'm on the web, of course, and I'm looking around, and I'm worried, just like everybody is. And he's got a huge following now. Ever since the war broke out 100 days ago or something, he keeps account. He's on the web, keeping people posted and updated, giving them news and views and music. I think for their benefit, obviously, but also for his, because this is getting to be quite a slog, quite a drag. Let's bring him in here and say good morning to our good pal, our good friend, Serge in Ukraine, in Kyiv. Good morning, pal.
Good morning. Good morning, U.S.
Yes, it's a morning here in the central part of the country where I'm at, obviously. And where you're at, we're approaching early evening. It's about an 8-hour time difference here between the two countries. And I wanted to start off, I'm going to surprise him here a little bit. I'm going to play this film clip because he's all about the music. And again, I'm remiss a little bit. I should mention for people that may not know, Serge is a Ukraine citizen. He was the front man for Leonid and Friends. It's a Chicago tribute band. It was based in Moscow. And their videos went viral. Millions watched it. Leonid and Friends have recorded 3 Chicago tribute albums titled Chicagovich 1, 2, and 3. After touring in Russia, the band first toured the United States in 2019. In 2018, Earth, Wind, and Fire's Blood, Sweat, and Tears, Tower of Power, and the Ides of March songs were added to their playlist. They're all favorites from back in the day. I mean, he's just great. Now, he's got a new album, and we're going to talk about that as we get into it. But I want to play this. It's only about a minute long, and I promised a friend that I was going to do this. And this is a song for the people of Ukraine, and so I think Sergei's going to like this. Let's give it a listen.
Same skin, same blood in your imaginary boundaries. Weapons are not the deed. World peace is what we
Okay, so there you go. Again, that's for the benefit of a friend of mine. Kelly actually forwarded that to me. A friend, she was one of the original members of the Big Head Todd and the Monsters fan club back when we all got behind that band many years ago, Sergey. And I don't know. It's just great. It shows that people are thinking of you, and that person's got some musical talent. They put that song together, and they really wanted me to play it. So there you go, pal. That's for you.
That's amazing. Ukraine is everywhere, and
Yeah.
well, there's a Putin name in the title of the song. Well,
Yeah.
first of all, we do not capitalize the first letter of his last name,
Okay.
but the interesting story that one uh, songwriter from Great Britain, from London. Actually, he wrote a song, and he wanted to it be produced and sung by Ukrainians, and it was like about serving cocktails of Molotov.
Jeez.
And well, when he reached out to me to sing this song, well, first I wasn't sure that I want to sing it because there was a lot of words like Russia, Putin, and something. So, but I like the idea because it was like for people who are not Ukrainians, and it was in English and understandable English. So I told him, well, okay, but let's change all the words like Putin, Russia, because it's not only about Putin. He is not the
Yeah,
only one
that's
who is
right.
responsible. And not only Russia, we have Belarus. Well, that's just our neighbors who are not, well, I don't think they are in a good mental condition. So I propose him, let's change it, and okay, we will do that. And really recorded song about serving cocktails of Molotov. It tells a
Oh
story.
yeah.
It tells a story of how Russian tank driver entering Ukraine and what's going on after that. So
All
it
right.
was pretty interesting.
So we've got you back on the show, and I know that you spend a lot of time talking with folks and explaining what's going on. And I know a lot of people are interested in you personally. So let's get that out of the way here. I mean, this thing is going on for 3, 4 months now. You're holed up in your apartment there. Your family went away for safety, and you're riding it out. But my God, man, it's got to be wearing on you at this point.
Well, yeah. Well, actually, things changed a little bit because I'm not in my apartment anymore. I'm in my studio.
Yeah.
Finally, we've been here like for 3 weeks so far, almost month, and we really started to work on few albums. Well, first of all, we had a lot of projects before war has started, and we couldn't do it at home, obviously. And when we had opportunity to get back to the studio, we started to do everything that we didn't finish. But we realized that we cannot catch up everything, so we concentrated on few most important things. And this is our new label imprint here in Ukraine, and we will be publishing Ukrainian artists in US and Canada and worldwide, and it will be called Javelin Recordings.
No,
You know,
sure.
Javelin.
Like javelin rockets. Yeah. Yeah.
So, and that's one of the most important thing that I'm doing right now. But besides that, we have few other projects. Well, my album that we are working on, and album of one of our bands that we will be releasing, Ocheretyany Kid, and they got a song called "My Friend Javelin," and we already released a video on that, but a few days ago we've been performing this song on one interesting location. It was on the destroyed Russian tanks not far from Kyiv, in a region of Bucha. Probably all know this city, and there were a lot of destruction, including Russian technique. And it was like a very big convoy of tanks that was destroyed on the road to Bucha. And we've been performing there. The idea is to bring more attention to problems of places that was that has a lot of destruction there that was ruined, and there's a lot of people who suffered from that. And we trying to bring more attention of the media, of the journalists, to problems of that people, and of course of other organizations who can help to rebuild these places, because there's a lot of destruction. Really few gas stations where I uh, fueled my car when I was driving on my vacation, it was completely ruined. It was a little bit unpleasant feeling, but anyway, life goes on, and we need to rebuild everything, and we need to help people who um, suffered there. And there's a lot of things to do, actually.
Well, what about the latest reports that we have? I'm going to get into this in a little bit here, but that some of that rocket fire is starting to come into the outskirts of Kiev. That's one of the reasons I wanted to get with you, because it's getting closer. And which is closer, your studio where you're at now, or your an apartment? Are they either one more at
Yeah,
risk?
that was closer to my apartment. It was on a left bank. My apartment also on a left bank, and actually, it was the feeling was the same as the first day of war, because it was also like 5 a.m. In the morning. A lot of explosions. Well, that was the air defense systems that tried to destroy the missiles, but they destroyed only one of five missiles, and four reached the destination. It was like one of the railroads connections, and some, I think that was some electricity distribution facility or something like that. I'm not sure the second target, but fortunately nobody died. So that was like most important
My
thing.
God, yes. It's all about the people, and I've said that before. And that's the thing about war. And let's get into this now. I want to update it. I want to give the latest that I have, and of course, Sergey's he's on top of this more than I am. So if at any point you want to update more than what I have, this is from the Associated Press. Russia claims advances in Ukraine amid barrages and a troop boost. This is out of Kyiv, Ukraine, where Sergey is, and Associated Press reporting. Russia claimed Tuesday it has occupied large swaths of eastern Ukraine after a relentless weeks-long barrage and the recent deployment of more troops. Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu, whatever, said Moscow
Yeah.
Moscow's forces have forced control of 97% of the Luhansk region. Russia has declared that taking full control of the entire Donbass, which includes the Donetsk and Luhansk regions, and where Russia-backed separatists have fought the Ukrainian government since 2014, is its main goal in the invasion of its neighboring country, which began February 24th. The region recently has been bearing the brunt of the Russian onslaught. Now, I brought this map up to kind of give people unfamiliar, with the world, and that's a lot of people, including a little bit of yours truly, what we're talking about here. Up in the top right-hand corner, I've got that X. That's kind of on the way to Moscow. That's where they're at up there. Where Sergey is in Kiev right there, circled in the center. And then this Donbass region that we're talking about over here, and these contested areas, and an update. This is supposed to be the most recent in Luhansk and Donetsk. Russian military control the solid pink there, if you want to call it that. Russian advances, they're kind of leaking into these other areas. And then it also shows where Russia annexed Crimea in 2014. So this is military stuff. Again, I'm more about the people, but I mean, this is it's because of the military. So it says, Associated Press says it's not clear whether Russia would try to expand its offensive elsewhere in Ukraine if it takes the Donbass. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov warned Monday that if the West provides Ukraine with long-range rockets capable of reaching Russian territory, Moscow will respond by pressing its offensive deeper into Ukraine. And of course, I don't know. Give us, all right, I'm going to say this. I saw a report from a former UN weapons inspector, and this guy said basically, sorry, to keep an eye or keep an ear out for hypersonic missiles or platforms that can launch these, because he said that is potentially catastrophic. And the way that he explained it, and you maybe can correct me, but he said if Ukraine inadvertently or on purpose was to fire hypersonic longer range missiles at Russia, it would give them, because they're hypersonic, only 5 or 6 minutes to respond, which is not very much time. And they would have to determine whether or not it was a mistake, whether or not it was on purpose, or most importantly, whether it was an intended decapitation strike, as this analyst called it. And by the way, this guy that I was listening to was right about the Iraq war. I mean, he said there were no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. So I'm listening to this guy. I'm paying attention to what he's saying. He says that if that's viewed by Russia as a decapitation strike, these hypersonic missiles, they will respond with nuclear weapons. I thought, oh, God. And he said, the worst part of it is, he says, even if the hypersonic missiles that are fired at Russia hit their targets and achieve their goals, there's something called a dead hand methodology that would result in the nuclear weapons being fired from Russia missile silos regardless, that it would happen regardless. And I thought, oh my God, this is doomsday that this guy's talking about. And he was clearly concerned about it, worried about it. Have you heard, have you read anything like that?
Well, we've been aware of this from the first days, of course, and we know everything about Russians can use the nuclear weapon. Well, the thing is that actually, even if we will not have these hypersonic missiles, they can use their own to claim that we pointed that missiles to Russia, and that's what I want to say. You, if you read something or hear something from Russians, don't believe any word. So all the statements like they are controlling 97% of
Yeah.
Luhansk, and that's completely lies. And all they could do during these 104 days of war is they just destroyed few pretty nice cities like Kharkiv, Mariupol. Now they
Yeah.
destroying Donetsk, which is also pretty nice city. I've been there in 2015. It was also like a military zone there. So, but actually, they didn't capture anything important so far, and that's probably the main thing. And our military is now starting to fight back the regions, and that's true. And well, about nuclear weapon, well, we cannot do anything with that. If they will decide to use it, they will. But the nuclear weapon will destroy a huge amount of people. So
Right.
if they will target our militaries, for example, in Severodonetsk, they will kill thousands of people on our side and on their own side. So that doesn't make any sense. So, well, they can hit, for example, Kyiv, of course, but they will just ruin the city. They will not capture anything. Nobody will stop fighting if Kyiv will be destroyed or any other city in Ukraine. So I don't think that will work. And I think that they understand it.
Let me ask you this. I wonder about this all the time. Early on, a lot of people left. That's what that refugee flow was all about to the surrounding countries, including your family. And so I'm thinking in Kiev, as an example, there are some guys, literally, like you. There might be some people that were not capable of getting out, but that the city is, from a population standpoint, maybe not a ghost town, but close to it. Is that your impression or not? How many people are there?
No, no. Kyiv, like from the end of April, when we had not a lot of shellings here, and actually all the region of Kyiv was free from Russian troops because they left to Belarus or to Russia. People started to get back to Kyiv. So, well, our officials saying that it's like 10 or 15,000 every day. So a lot people we have on the streets. It seems like cities living. Of course, not everywhere, but in uh, our public transportation start to work normally. So that's probably a good thing for us.
All right, let me
Uh,
bring this. Oh, go ahead.
but not a lot of people fled from Kiev to western regions, for example. But uh, that was like in the first 3 or 4 days of war, because they were afraid, they were scared. But I have few friends that already returned to Kiev from that regions.
And,
So
and there's more coming back all the time, huh?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, good. I want to play this clip and then have you comment on it because, again, I'm just trying to get current here with the most recent. So let's watch this and you'll be able to comment on it.
It's the responsibility of Russians to use cruise missiles, very expensive, as you're totally right, to attack peaceful facility to produce freight wagons, half wagons, and wagons for grain to transport this grain to the European market.
Targets. Did you have any expectation that they might target this facility?
For sure, they consider this facility is totally peaceful and everyone can come and see. Of course, if there is some conspiracy theory, maybe they will use next morning saying that Ukrainian took away tanks from this facility, but you can see it's impossible to do. There were no tanks, and you can just be witness of this. When Russian propagandists from Ministry of Defense stated that it was used as a military facility, we decided to open the door for everyone to see.
Okay, so let me see if I can get our microphones working in here again. Hopefully, they are. I think they are. They look like they are. So, that kind of strikes at the heart of what you were talking about earlier. You get two completely different stories here. And this one, I mean, you're looking at it, you got to believe your eyes, obviously. The Russians are going to say they were in there at that train depot blowing up tanks and armaments and military stuff. The Ukrainians on site are obviously showing us that there ain't none of that stuff there. We didn't see any of that even destroyed from earlier. It just is not there.
Well, to be honest, at one day they actually pointed one facility in that district of Kiev. It was like more than a month ago, where actually few tanks were on repair. But that was like something unusual, actually. But this facility, yes, that's the train depot called Darnitsa, which is actually my district, where I spent a lot of time, and a lot of my friends live there. And obviously, there is no no tanks repair shop, and well, I'm not sure why it happens. A lot of technique in Russian army, it's from Soviet Union, and sometimes it's in a terrible condition. Probably they tried to hit another target, and something happened not correct. But maybe they really try to destroy our connection of trains, because we have a problems right now with delivering our grain to European countries, and which more important, to countries overseas, from Odessa. They are blocking our ports. But uh, I'm not sure what their goal was.
All right, great. Well, we're having A lot of good stuff here. The stream is just great going into Ukraine. I just can't believe how good it is. I tell people all the time that when I talk to Sergey, I have trouble sometimes getting across town on the internet, but it's really good. He's on an Ethernet connection, and it's really smooth and good, so we can actually show and talk through some of these things. So, all right, and again, it's all about the music. So I want to get back to some of this war coverage stuff, but I want to show this because I got this. This was something that you had retweeted or repurposed on one of your sites, and have you explain what we're looking at here. I'm going to show this, and then I'll come right back.
Моя електричка везе мене з дому додому. Пейзажний сумні. Ця воля, цей простір, вони не потрібні нікому. Рудий вечір за вікном. І тому тут в вагоні лиця у людей червоні. Від тюрми до тюрми вже порейкають дві юрби. Вийти там, де заманеться, вийти там.
Я так зрозуміла, що це проблема покращення. Я думаю, що багато
Okay, well, and particularly at the end of that clip, I mean, an old peacenik like me would look at that and think, my God, that little boy there with that, I don't know, that's one of the Russian rifles or something. I don't know what that is, but
AK-47, yeah.
yeah, the AK-47, yeah. Not that long ago, Sergey and his buddies would have been playing at a location. That kid would have been picking up a guitar or a drumstick, and they'd be showing him that. But instead, this is this self-promulgating, self-fulfilling mission of war. This child's being introduced to this. He's having to experience this again. The Russians are responsible for this, folks. I mean, don't get me wrong, but it just breaks my heart to see that. But tell us what we were seeing there and what that was all about.
So that's a huge project we're working on with our colleagues. That's the echo of destruction. And the main thing that we are playing music that relates to the times we are living in right now, at locations that has been suffered from missiles, from tanks, from destruction. And that particular place is the road from Kyiv to Bucha, which was completely destroyed, almost completely destroyed, and where a lot of people been killed and tortured. And that was in one of the small villages, smaller than Bucha, near that village, where a big convoy of Russian tanks was destroyed by Ukrainian militaries. And we've been playing there to bring more attention from politics, media, journalists, and activists, and just ordinary people to the problems of that places that been destroyed, and to the problems of the people who live there. So we will be continuing to do things like that. And these guys who started this project, they've been filming such thing in a destroyed drama theater in Mariupol. And that was also pretty, I cannot say it's interesting or
heinous.
It's terrible, but it brings some new energy to that places. It's ruined, but the thing that we are playing music there means that we are going to rebuild that places, and we're going to put completely another energy there.
Moving around just off barely in that video is your buddy Vlad. I mean, we talked about him earlier. I mean, he must be invaluable to you as a friend, a music collaborator during these very difficult times. He's helping with this project too, right?
Well, yes, we all working on these projects. Well, all our studio, all our colleagues, we just gathered together and we
God,
understood
that's great.
we should do that.
Yeah.
That's the good idea.
All right. Well, here I want to bring this up and again have you comment on it because we get a lot of war coverage here coming out of Ukraine, but we don't get a lot on the peace talks, and probably because there's not a lot going on. But let me bring this up on screen. Now, this is out of Common Dreams. I encourage people to follow that. I read Common Dreams a lot. It says, anti-war coalition warns new UK rockets will only prolong the misery in Ukraine. The Stop the War coalition said the British government should be demanding a ceasefire and the recommencement of peace talks, not arming Ukraine with long-range rockets. Now, I think Sergey probably disagrees with that. An anti-war coalition based in the United Kingdom warned Monday that the British government's decision to allow or to follow in the Biden administration's footsteps and supply Ukraine with longer-range rocket systems risks extending and potentially intensifying Russia's deadly war. The move announced Monday by UK Defense Secretary Ben Wallace could usher in a wider and still worse conflict, said Andrew Murray, Deputy President of the Stop the War Coalition. The UK should change course and start pushing for a ceasefire and peace talks, Murray added. The Guardian reported that like the United States, the UK has sought assurances from Kyiv that the rocket systems would not be used to strike targets within Russia. Okay, so let's back out of this quickly because I hate to just have me sit and read sometimes when we're broadcasting from around the world, and we've got Sergey on the live line. So yeah, you're probably going to disagree with some of that, I would think, because they're wanting to for Ukraine not to get that weaponry and to focus more on resolving this.
Well, the problem is not in weapon. The problem is that we do not have a weapon. We have a lot of people ready to fight, but we do not have equipment for them, and we do not have modern military equipment. We're just starting to receive it, actually, and our soldiers need to be trained to use that. Russians are afraid of that when we will have this equipment and this weapon, the war will go on their side. But what they did expect when they entered Ukraine. So if somebody in this world still thinks that you can negotiate with Russia, well, we have been trying to negotiate right from the start of the war. As you can remember, our negotiation group was in Belarus from the start of the war and later in Turkey, but they didn't propose anything. So their demands was like just give up and that's all.
Yeah,
which is unacceptable for anyone. So, and if somebody thinks that if potentially, let's pretend that Russia will invade all the Ukraine, which is impossible, obviously. So they won't stop on our borders. There's still a lot of countries they want to invade if they will be successful. So,
well, I go.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, didn't mean to interrupt there. I wanted to go back to this video clip. I've got a couple other shorter clips because, again, I just look at it, wonder what's going on. Now, this is out of this project, and this was from the location with the tanks and musicians playing. And I'm going to play this clip again and ask people to bear with me here because it's not that long, and we'll come right back.
А ви з Дмитрівки?
Я погорілиці. Але ж хожу, сміюсь, тому що буду знов так, як Справа в тому, що після війни Катя почала писати дуже-дуже хороші вірші. Вірші не просто римування, вірші, які беруть за душу кожного. І вона знаходить такі слова, що в українській мові їх вже давно забули.
Well, like I tell people, I struggle with the English language, let alone others. And what I can get from that is the emotion, obviously. But what's she saying, Sergey?
All the people there, civilians, they are from that villages around this location, and this lady is the younger one. Her name, I think, Katya, and she, they all suffered from the invasion. They've been tortured. Terrible things happened there, but they survived anyway. And she started to write poems after that.
Oh,
And she has reading her poem after the journalist asked her to, so you can listen to this poem afterwards. Well, I don't remember what it is about, but it sounds very nice.
well, let me see. It's
Я хочу зустрічати тут світанки, і тут зустріть лелек в своїм краю, і вийти з кавою в руках на ганку, вдихнути ранок у своїм раю. Я так люблю тебе, мій рідний краю. Я так пишаюся тобою, рідна земля. Я іншої не хочу, та й не знаю. Вона тепер для мене, як дитя, така ж нещасна. Її рвуть на шмаття, її болить, пече і душить сум. А мала б надягнуть весняне плаття, вплести барвінок у свою косу, зашелестіти гіллям верболозі та напоїти солов'їв в гаю.
Okay, I don't want to play too much of it. I can't get people to listen to me in English sometimes, so I don't want to play too much. That's a couple of minutes long. That's a longer clip. But
this lady is talking about that she wants to live on her land, and she wants it to be peaceful, and she wanted to meet the springtime with a cup of coffee, and she just wrote a poem about what she wants and what is happening right now in Ukraine.
yeah, what she wants is what we all want, folks. Okay, that's an excellent segue, as they say in the music business, to the next article that I'm going to put up here. I want you to think about those women that we just saw, and then I'm going to read through this briefly. Again, from the Associated Press, the Ukraine is facing sexual violence and a trafficking crisis. This is out of the United Nations, AP. Sexual violence in Ukraine, especially against women and girls, remains prevalent and underreported. And the humanitarian crisis in the war-torn country is turning into a human trafficking crisis. Now, we're not hearing much about that back here. The UN Special Envoy for Sexual Violence in Conflict said Monday, Pramila Patten told the UN Security Council that there is a gap between its resolutions aimed at preventing rape and other sexual attacks during conflicts and the reality on the ground for the most vulnerable, women and children. As of June 3, she said, the UN Human Rights Office had received 124 allegations of conflict-related sexual violence, 97 of them involving women and girls, 19 against men, 7 against boys, and 1 gender unknown. Verification of the case is continuing. Patton said Ukraine's prosecutor general informed her during a visit in May that a national hotline reported the following forms of conflict-related sexual violence between February 24th, when Russian troops invaded the country, and April 12th. Quote, rape, gang rape, pregnancy following rape, attempted rape, threats of rape, coercion to watch an act of sexual violence committed against a partner or a child, and forced nudity. The Russian UN ambassador categorically rejected and condemned all allegations of sexual violence by Russian troops as lies. He said Russia's soldiers are subject to strict rules prohibiting torture and violence against civilians. He claimed the same rules don't apply to Ukrainians. Okay, so he's going to try to turn it around here and blame it on the Ukrainians. But I look at that and again, being the peacenik that I am, Sergey, I say, hey, this is war, folks. I mean, this has always been a component of war. It was with the United States and the wars that we've been involved in. It's always going to be there. And I'm not buying what that guy's saying from Russia about Ukrainians raping their own people or whatever that is. But my God, that just has to be horrific to think about. And then particularly just following that video with that woman, beautiful young woman reading her poem.
Yeah, that's true. And well, we having reports every day because there's a lot of investigators in Bucha, for example, where these ladies are from. And actually, when we were there, we heard few stories about um, some some things like that, where they've been tortured women or forced to undress them or even rape. And well, of course, obviously, during the wars, it's happening all the time, but probably right now we have such good communication and abilities to fix all these crimes that it just um, you cannot imagine how it looks. It's just terrible.
It's tough to even talk about, but I did want to bring that up, particularly after the video that we saw. Let me bring this. All right, this is another element of it, and we talk about the hardship inflicted upon the Ukrainian people. We're feeling some hardship here in the United States because of what's going on. Of course, Europe is a much larger scale, but in other parts of the world, it's even worse than that. Again, reporting from the Associated Press, UN climate shocks, war fuel multiple food crises. Yeah. And I was kind of interested to look at it from this perspective. Again, this is out of the Associated Press in Rome. Two United Nations food agencies issued stark warnings Monday about multiple looming food crises on the planet driven by climate shocks like drought and worsened by the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, we knew about that. And the war in Ukraine that have sent fuel and food prices soaring. The glum assessment came in a report by two Rome-based food agencies, the World Food Program and the Food and Agricultural Organization. WFP Executive Director David Beasley said, besides hurting the poorest of the poor, the global food crises threaten to overwhelm millions of families who are just getting by. Conditions now are much worse than during the Arab Spring in 2011 and 2007-2008 food price crises, when 48 countries were rocked by political unrest, riots, and protests, Beasley said in a statement. He cited as just the tip of the iceberg food crises now in Indonesia, Pakistan, Peru, and Sri Lanka. The report calls for urgent humanitarian action to help hunger hotspots where acute hunger is expected to worsen over the next few months. The UN agencies are also warning that the war in Ukraine, which was, as we know, invaded by Russia back in February, has exacerbated already steadily rising food and prices worldwide. So, yeah, I mean, this is the nature of war. We got to get this thing settled. We got to get a resolution of this conflict. I know that you would hope and even expect that it's going to come in the form of a Ukraine victory, but there are a lot of people in this country, Surrey, that are still saying Ukraine can't win this war, that it has to be settled, that there has to be a negotiation, that some of this territory is going to have to be ceded back to Russia. Are you buying any of that? Can Ukraine win this war?
That's impossible after everything that happened during these 4 months. It's just obviously impossible that somebody in Ukraine will give up and give in the territories to Russia. Well, and what for? Do you think if Russia will have a part of Donbass, they will just keep calm? Well, I don't think so. So this war will end only when the Russian troops will leave Ukraine, and then probably there will be some kind of negotiations. Well, who knows? You know, we have some reports that some riotings in Russia starting, and who knows, maybe they will change something inside of the country that will affect this war. But we cannot um, do anything with that. So that's just on their responsibility. I
I
mean,
want
Russia.
to read this comment because I've been putting them up on screen, but when this gets recorded and gets repurposed in audio, of course, we don't get to see any of the comments. A lot of people, and he's got a huge following, folks. A lot of these people are his that are joining the broadcast today that are wanting to wish him well. But Mary Moonen, who has commented on Podcast by George previously, she says, God bless you and keep you safe, Sir. Hey, and of course, Vlad, your family, we need your voice in not only music, but just like this, what we're doing today. And that, I mean, that's got to be very rewarding because that's exactly what he's trying to get to here, folks. Why should anyone have to give up their home and country? I believe in Ukraine. Well, that goes right to what you were talking about there. I mean, yeah, why should you? And then here's one other comment. This is from Paul Desmond. He says, hello, glad to see you. Stay safe. Slava,
Paul.
Ukraine. Yeah. So there you go. I mean, there's a lot of comment, and people keep sending these along. I'll keep putting them up on screen as we can. I've also been putting up on screen the websites, the Twitter addresses, and some of these locations where people can support you, your family, and the cause. And you've got I mean, you're all over the web, obviously. What's the number one place you would like people to see, visit, go to follow this, contribute, participate? What would you suggest?
Probably one of the main things right now is my Facebook page, and we playing Wednesday streams each Wednesday, and we are raising funds to help some maternity hospitals, just hospitals. Sometimes we're trying to help militaries, but mostly it's like maternity hospitals, and we have some goals each Wednesday, and we already did like I think 10 goals. So we raised money for, well, I don't even know what is equipment actually, how it works, but it helps newborn children to enter this world safer, and we are happy with that, and we're trying to do whatever we can.
Nah, that's great. That's well stated here. I want to get this banner off the screen there. That was his Facebook address where he can go, and that's probably the best way to follow along. That's what I do, and it pops up. I get reminders. I get to join in, and you can come and go as you like because he's at this night and day. I said on the earlier broadcast, I don't know when you sleep, dude. I mean, honest to God, every time I log on Facebook, he's going on. Musicians are always up late at night, but he does some morning hours too, so he's getting the word out here. Okay, I wanted to bring, before we run out of time here, I want to bring this up and talk about this a little bit because we talked about the tribute band and the fact that a lot of people learned about you through that. But this is from just a couple of 3 weeks ago. It says, we've been able to record my first solo album, Songs from the Other Side of the Planet, because of the coronavirus pandemic. When the world was going to collapse, we just started to make more music. By that time, we thought, what's more terrible that can happen? And all our dreams was when the pandemic will be over, we will go back to normality and be making more music and play it everywhere. We were wrong. It could go worse. And now this terrible war has started when our bloody neighbors trying to destroy Ukraine, and probably even more. And again, what we can oppose to our ignorant and evil neighbors. We do what we can. We're making music. We're writing songs that reflect nowadays and recording history with musical codes that should tell our story to the next generation so they will not let it happen again. Music means a lot. Music can make a difference. Music can speak the truth. Yay, brother. I mean, that's a fact, folks, if it's real. I want to thank Rex Paul Schnell and John Piscata from Jetpack Label Group. And just so you know, we started to record the next one. Me and Vlad are already in our Crystal Sound studio. We talked about that. Stay tuned. Meanwhile, Songs from Other Side of the Planet is on all streaming platforms. Okay, and so here's a little bit of the cover down there. You can see that. And here's all the platforms. I mean, it's on Spotify, it's on YouTube, it's on Apple Music. It's all these places where you can go in there and find it. Well, what about these musical codes? That's intriguing to me. I mean, I can't carry a note in a bucket. What's a code? Yeah.
That's a long story. I have a friend, Mikola Brovchenko, who is also a songwriter. Actually, he's one of the biggest and most famous songwriters in Ukraine. He's writing lyrics mostly, and I working with him on a lot of the projects here in Ukraine. We're writing songs together. We producing some music and a lot of stuff. And he wrote a song one time, Musical Code, and this song was about well, actually he trying to discover, and he actually writing a book about it, why people started to sing, where it comes from, the music, the and especially songwriting, why people sing songs, where it came from. And he has a lot of explanations and thoughts about it. And the main thing that uh, music is some kind of code that we put in together our um, live observation, our feelings, to give it to next generations. So probably people after us will not understand what we've been doing here. Well, you know, now it's easier. We have videos and audios, but 100 years ago it was impossible. All right, so people they wrote songs and they sing this song to give more information to next generations. And that's actually what we trying to do when we writing music. We're trying to put everything that's going on around us to 3 minutes of music and lyrics, and probably people who will be listening it in future, they will understand more about us.
Nah, that's great. I mean, you're doing great work, Sarah. And I was just doing some background work. What's on your T-shirt there? What's that say? What do you? Oh, because you the clothes you wear. My God, that's great. And it's ironic because we're talking about the power of music, and I'm a child of the oh God, 50s, 60s, 70s. I don't know what you want to call it, but I was in high school in the 70s, early 70s, as a matter of example, and I had a class reunion one time, Sergey, and we were talking. I thought, my God, everybody must be of a common mind when it comes to music. From my generation, I said, that's what it was. That's what it was all about. I mean, we thought we could change the world, particularly in the late '60s, but going into the '70s with music, and it ends up the world wasn't changed. But I mean, that is what kind of set us apart. Was the music. And this classmate looked at me and said, I never really liked the music that much. And I said, "What?" And I didn't understand what all the fralderall was about the music. I'm like, "Oh my God, you're kidding me." So, I mean, and we're talking about war today. We're talking about Ukraine. We think everyone is of like mind when it comes to this, but just like music, they're not. And that's what he's trying to do, is to get everybody to think alike on this. And from my perspective, I'm wanting everybody to get this resolved. I mean, every day there isn't war is another day that lives are being saved, folks. And it's got to happen. The negotiations, the peace settlement, the sit down, whatever we can get, that has to be ongoing. And of course, we've talked about the other things that are going on military to also bring this to a close in some way. And we're running out of time here. Speaking of a close, I'm going to try to get some more of these comments up on screen, and I want you to give us kind of a wrap up here, Sergey, kind of your final comments here as we end this live line on Podcast by George.
Well, all I can say that we are all waiting for this war to end, and of course, that's our main goal. But anyway, it's obvious that it will be like next half of year. We have no um, indicators that shows that we're going to win in next month, unfortunately. So we need to help people who suffered of this war, who have some problems. A lot of refugees we have in Kyiv or on the west of Ukraine, and we're trying to do whatever we can to help these people to settle, because when you lost home, when you have no money, when, well, even if you have some place to stay, but you feel helpless, you want to do something. So we're trying to figure out how to help these people. And, well, of course, well, I'm trying to expand everything that I do, that we started with all these Wednesday streams when we raised money for maternity hospitals. We're trying to make more huge projects, and bring more attention to these problems, and raise more money. But you cannot help everyone, unfortunately. So we're trying to do whatever we can right now.
Well, that's great. That's well said. As I say, that's a good ribbon. That's a good bow to put on the end of the show, folks. I love this guy. I mean, honest to God, what he's doing out there now. I want you to thrive. I want you to do more than thrive, pal. I want you to survive. I mean, I'm thinking about you, and all of these people that have commented today, they're thinking about you each and every day. The Ukrainian people, the future of your country. Everybody wishes you well. Travel safe and well, pal.
Thank you. I will try to do my best with it.
Yeah, he is doing his best. He's doing great. Folks, I hope you like this podcast by George. I mean, this is a special edition. This is an exclusive. This really is rewarding to me because it gives me an opportunity to reach out around the world, talk to somebody that you normally would not get to hear about, particularly live, and then comment and ask questions. What a great thing. Serge Tiagniryadno, a Ukrainian citizen, a musician, that he's in his studio there, the Crystal Studio in Ukraine, writing this thing out, doing great music, great works, and spreading the word all over the world with folks like Podcast by George. And folks, if you like the show, I'm going to leave with my closing rejoinder here. Please go to podcastbygeorge.com. Log on there. Pick a platform where you'd like to follow us: YouTube, Facebook, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio app, Deezer, even. Some of these places I'm not even that familiar with. I mean, we're available just about everywhere that podcasts are seen or heard. But that's going to do it. I mean, that's going to wrap it up. That's all there is, and there ain't no more. That's another Podcast by George Liveline.